Assalamualaikum and a very good day. Today, I, Fadhlil Wafi,
And I, Woon Jia Xuan.
And I, Vinnie Ng Mei Chet.
And I, Sun Wern.
And I, Nurul Anisha Abdul Rahman,
from Group 2, PBL Group 13, will be presenting our case study that we have conducted throughout the whole semester, titled The Bioethics of Animal Use. So, what is the central issue behind our topic? Jeff, the PhD student, has to conduct an experiment to test the effects of natural compounds of turmeric on tumor cells using animals, which is the sprog dolly rats, but by doing so, his experiment would cause harm and even death to the animals. For this case study, we have come up with two preliminary decisions. The first preliminary decision is that Jeff, the PhD student, should proceed with the experiment on the effects of natural compounds of turmeric on tumor cells. The second preliminary decision is that Jeff should stop the experiment on the effects of natural compounds of turmeric on tumor cells. To dive deeper into this issue, I would like to invite my two friends, Woon and Tan, to explain about the harm and benefits of the two preliminary decisions that we have come up for this case study.
In order to come up with a good ethical deliberation based on this issue, we test two options, which are Jeff should continue his experiment or Jeff should stop his experiment, which involves the spore dory rats, using harm tests based on different parties involved and by different aspects. The first party involved in this issue will be Jeff, the PhD student. If he chooses to continue his research using the spore dory rats, he will have a greater chance to gain success because human psychology is similar to animal psychology and become popular in scientific field. But he may feel guilty of inserting pain on innocent animals and be blamed by the public. On the other hand, if he stops his experiment using animals, he wastes his time and may face financial problems preparing his experiment. However, he can find other alternative methods to continue his research and free from the complaints of using live animals. The second party involved will be the spore dory rats. If the experiment was continued by Jeff, the rats will contribute to life-saving cures and treatments, but they will undergo pain, distress, and eventually die in the experiment. They will be exposed to laboratory risks such as mutation and suffers besides having a shorter lifespan than in the wild. In contrast, if the experiment stopped and used other alternative methods, the spore dory rats will be free from pain and distress and gain back their freedom. Besides, the parties involved in this issue will be the patients with tumors. If Jeff continues his research and succeed, the patient can be cured easily, but if not, they will receive false hope because the treatment isn't promised. In contrast, if Jeff stopped the experiment, the patients may lose a chance for a simple cure, but their safety will be promised. This is because the success in animal experiments does not equate to human safety.
Lastly, the party involved in this issue will be the religious parties who are fighting for animal rights. They will protest the experiment and literally become famous and known in the public, but this will cause the public perception of experimentation worsen if Jeff continues his experiment. In contrast, if Jeff stopped his experiment, the religious party take credit in succeeding to stop animal testing and save animals' lives, and also protect the animal rights. This will also lay a foundation that stops the advancements of medical field if animals are not used as test subjects, yet encourage better alternative methods.
I would like to invite Vinny to explain about the faith test that we had conducted for this case study.
First, from the perspective of Christianity, Disney stated that since an animal's natural life is a gift from God, it follows that God's right is violated when the natural life of his creatures is perverted. He believes that God's love is intended not just for human beings, but for all creatures. Doing wrong to an animal is wronging God by violating his right to have the whole of his creation respected. Next, From the view of Islam, Prophet Muhammad stated that there is a reward for serving any living being. He exhorted Muslims to show kindness and compassion towards all living beings. Moreover, from the perspective of Buddhism, in the Dhammapada, it was stated that all beings tremble before danger or fear death. When you consider this, you will not kill or cause someone else to kill. All beings fear before danger, life is dear to all. Buddhists try to do as little harm as possible to animals by avoiding any jobs in connection with the killing of animals. Next, from the perspective of Hinduism, Vaswani stated that every animal has certain fundamental rights, and the first right of every animal is the right to live. For you must not take away what you cannot give, and since you cannot give life to a dead creature, you have no right to take away the life of a living one. Hence, humans have no right to kill an animal just for their own benefits. In conclusion, those four religions ask humans to take care of the animal's right and not violate them just for their own interests.
Moving on, we also conducted a professional test on Jeff's experiment to see whether it complied with professional laws and ethics.
The Malaysian Animal Welfare Act 2015, also known as the AWA, along with the Animal Act 2013, are the principal legislations that govern the care and use of laboratory animals in Malaysia. Part 4 states the matters related to animal welfare, where Section 26 explicitly states that the use of animals in research, testing and teaching is only permissible with a license from the board. Next is the My Code. My Code was adapted and adopted with permission from the National Health and Medical Research Council Australia. My Code is applicable to all branches of sciences within the confines of jurisdiction specified by the AWA 2015. My Code also stresses the personal responsibilities of investigators for an animal throughout the life of the study, in line with the provisions in AWA 2015. Lastly, the NECLA guidelines. These guidelines adopted best practices from countries such as Australia, New Zealand and the United States. These countries and organizations laid down stringent guidelines and procedures governing the care and use of animals in research. The NECLA guidelines set out responsibilities of all parties involved in the care and use of animals for scientific purposes, in accordance with widely accepted scientific, ethical and legal principles. Okay, now let's move on to the next professional test, which is the moral obligations towards animals. Firstly, having respect for animals' dignity. Researchers must have respect for animals' worth, regardless of their utility value, and for animals' interests as living sentient creatures. Researchers must provide care that is adapted to the needs of each laboratory animal. Second, having responsibility for considering options, which means replace. Researchers are responsible for studying whether there are alternatives to experiments on animals. Alternative options must be prioritized if the same knowledge can be acquired without using laboratory animals. Third, having responsibility for considering reducing the number of animals, which means reduce. Researchers are responsible for considering whether it is possible to reduce the number of animals the experiment plans to use, and must only include the number necessary to maintain the scientific quality of the experiments and the relevance of the results. Lastly, having responsibility for minimizing the risk of suffering and improving animal welfare, which means refine. Researchers are responsible for assessing the expected effect on laboratory animals. Researchers must provide good animal welfare and minimize the risk of suffering. This suffering includes pain, thirst, malnutrition, abnormal cold or heat, fear, stress, injury, illness, and restrictions on the ability to behave normally or naturally.
Lastly, we conducted a publicity test based on how we think the public would react to Jeff's decision.
The reason why to be publicized is to advocate for tightened regulation on animal experimentation, to expose any attempt of misconduct and mistreatment of animals in the laboratories, and to raise the public's awareness on bioethics of animal use and ensure that animals receive proper care during their time in the lab.
Based on the ethical tests that we have conducted, such as the harm test, faith test, professional test, and publicity test, we have decided that the experiment should be stopped as the consequences outweighed the benefits. Before we end this video, we would like to express our special appreciation to all of the lecturers under the Ethics and Safety course, especially our facilitator, Dr. Ardiana, who has helped us and guided us step by step throughout the project. The following materials are references that we have used in tests throughout our case study. Thank you for watching our video.